He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. He didn't even know if he'd ever see her again. All he knew was that the hungry woman sitting outside the diner that morning looked like she hadn't eaten in days, so he gave her his only breakfast. He thought that was the end of it. But 3 weeks later, when two lawyers in sharp suits walked into his janitor's closet asking for him by name, his life changed forever. The morning had started like every other in Daniel Carter's life. Painfully early, impossibly tired, but held together by the small, stubborn love he carried for his 7-year-old son Noah. Being a single dad meant stretching every dollar until it practically begged for mercy. Rent was late again, the electricity bill sat unopened on the counter, and overtime hours at the school janitorial job had been cut. But that morning he still stopped at the tiny corner diner and bought his usual 1-egg sandwich. Cheap. Filling, enough to keep him standing on his feet until lunch, if lunch even came. As he stepped outside, ready to take the short walk to work, he froze. On the sidewalk, huddled against the cold wall, was a woman who looked like she had not slept in a warm bed for weeks. Her hair was tangled, her eyes red, her clothes thin and ripped in places the winter wind should never reach. She wasn't begging, she wasn't asking for anything. She was just staring at the ground, defeated, as if she had finally accepted that the world had no place left for her. Daniel felt something twist inside his chest. Maybe it was because he knew what it felt like to lose everything. Maybe it was because he had once been the one sitting on a curb with nowhere to go. Or maybe it was because he couldn't imagine what would happen to him if Noah ever had to see him like that. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He simply walked over. "You hungry?" he asked gently. The woman lifted her head slowly. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak, but no sound came out. She didn't need to answer. Her eyes already had. Daniel held out his wrapped sandwich, his only breakfast. "Here, please." She shook her head weakly. "I can't take your food." "You're not taking it," he insisted. "I'm giving it." Her hands trembled as she accepted it. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice cracking as if she hadn't spoken in days. But before he could say anything more, a car drove by, startling her. She flinched and turned her face away. Daniel noticed something then, a faint bruise behind her ear. The kind you don't get from sleeping on concrete. He wanted to ask questions, but the woman seemed terrified of being seen or spoken to for too long. So he simply said, "I hope things get better for you," and walked away. He didn't know her story. He didn't know where she came from. He didn't know if she'd survive the night, but he knew he would think about her for a long, long time. At school, he pushed around his mop and bucket, his stomach aching from hunger. When lunchtime came, he didn't have anything to eat, and no one offered him anything either. But he didn't regret it. Helping her had felt right. That night he tucked Noah into bed and lied through his teeth. "Daddy already ate," he said with a smile he didn't feel. But Noah was too young to see through him, and Daniel was too proud to let his son know how tight things had become. The next morning, the sidewalk outside the diner was empty. She was gone. Daniel hoped she had found shelter, but in his heart, he feared the worst. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness, an egg sandwich given in a moment of compassion, had set something massive in motion. Something he was completely unprepared for. And in just a few weeks, that same woman, the one he feared he'd never see again, would send people into his life who would rewrite every struggle he had ever known. 3 weeks passed. Life didn't get easier, but Daniel kept going. He always kept going. He mopped floors, fixed broken lockers, unclogged toilets, and smiled at students who barely noticed him. Noah had a field trip coming up that he couldn't afford. The rent notice on the door had turned red, and the school had hinted that janitorial layoffs were coming. Some nights, it felt like the walls were closing in. Then came the day everything changed. Daniel was in the storage closet behind the gym, sorting through cleaning supplies, when he heard a knock on the door. Not a student's knock. Firm, professional, impatient. He opened it to find 2 people standing there, a man and a woman, both in tailored suits, leather briefcases in hand, looking like they'd walked straight out of a high-rise downtown. "Are you Daniel Carter?" the woman asked. He blinked. Yes. "We've been trying to reach you," the man said. "Your phone appears to be disconnected." Daniel felt a stab of embarrassment. "I couldn't pay the bill this month." "That's fine," the woman replied gently. "May we come in?" He stepped aside, completely confused. Lawyers didn't visit people like him. Not janitors, not single dads barely surviving paycheck to paycheck. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "Did something happen to Noah? Am I in trouble?" The woman shook her head firmly. "No, Mr. Carter." "This is good news." The man opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder, and laid it on the small work table next to the mop bucket. "3 weeks ago, you helped a woman outside a diner." Daniel froze. The woman. The one he had given his breakfast to. "Yes," he said quietly. "Is she okay? Is she alive?" The woman smiled, soft but confident. "More than alive. She's safe, and she's the one who sent us to you." Daniel's breath hitched. "Her name is Evelyn Hartwell," the other lawyer continued. "She is the daughter of Charles Hartwell, founder of Hartwell and Pierce, one of the largest law firms in the state." Daniel's mouth fell open. "Wait, Hartwell, as in?" "Yes," the lawyer nodded. "She disappeared months ago. The media assumed she was hiding by choice, but the truth is she was escaping someone dangerous, someone who controlled her life and finances." Daniel felt the room spin, the bruise on her face, the fear in her eyes, the way she flinched when the car went by. He understood now. "She told us," the woman continued, "that you were the first person in months who showed her kindness without wanting anything in return. You gave her food you needed for yourself." Daniel swallowed hard. His hands trembled. "I didn't do anything special." To her, the lawyer said, "You did something life-saving." The woman placed a document in front of him. "Evelyn asked us to deliver this to you personally, and to make sure you understand her gratitude." Daniel looked down. His heart nearly stopped. It was a legal transfer form, the kind he had only seen in movies, and attached to it was a bank check with more zeros than he had ever seen in his life, more money than he could have imagined in 10 lifetimes. "This can't be real," he whispered. "It is," the lawyer assured. Evelyn insisted. "She wants you and your son to be safe, to never know hunger again. She said your kindness gave her the strength to walk into a police station and reclaim her life." Daniel's knees buckled, and he sank into the chair beside the mop bucket. Tears blurred his vision. He hadn't cried in years, but now he couldn't stop. He had given a stranger his breakfast, and in return, she had given him back his future. Outside, the school bell rang, echoing through the hallways, the sound of a world continuing as normal. But Daniel knew nothing about his life would ever be normal again. Not after this. Not after kindness came full circle, and not after a poor woman he once feared was lost forever became the person who saved him and his son.